So I'll call the meeting to order at 5:01, March 1st, 2021.
Are you all seeing the screen?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Do we need to note ourselves as present?
We need the roll call.
Julie, are you hearing us?
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So for the record, I'll call your name. When you hear your name, please say present. Commissioner Abraham?
Present.
Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt?
Present.
Commissioner Lees?
Present.
Commissioner Redlitz?
Present.
Commissioner Seelert?
Present.
Commissioner Sims? And Commissioner Valenzuela. Let the record show all commissioners are present except for Sims and Valenzuela.
Okay, then we can move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeff, do you want to lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Ready to begin? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
And there's Navarro.
Oh, great. Okay, moving on, number 4, special presentations and proclamations. There are none. And next we move to oral communications.
And we have no public speakers.
Okay. Then changes to the agenda. I don't see any, so we can move on to the approval of the minutes. All right, is there any discussion of the minutes from last month?
I read the minutes and I can move to approve them.
Okay. I can move to second.
All right, I'll call your name, and if you're in favor, say aye, and opposed, say nay. Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt?
Aye.
Commissioner Lees?
Aye.
Commissioner Redlitz?
Aye.
Commissioner Seelert?
Aye.
And Commissioner Valenzuela?
Aye.
And let the record show the minutes passed 6-0 with Commissioner Sims being absent.
Okay, the next, then we go to the action items. And the first is to elect a chair and vice chair.
Well, shouldn't the first thing we do is announce that the 3 of us were reelected, so we are a complete group?
Thank you for, yes.
We were reappointed, so we are the correct group that's going to be here for the next year.
That is true.
Good.
So I would like to nominate Irene to be our chair again, because she's done such a terrific job and she also has experience doing it, and I think she well represents us.
I would second, as long as Irene wants to do it.
I am willing to try it for another year, yes.
I will also support that, but I want to make sure that both Michael and Kathleen have an opportunity. So I assume with your new appointment, you have future years of service where you can both also be chairperson.
Well, I've just been renominated for 3 years. Michael, what is your term?
Good question. I think I have 2 left.
Yes, I can give you a little
I think it
update.
was-
The remaining commissioners are all up for reappointment.
Excuse me,
next March.
Jim, for
Yes.
a point of order, let's stick to the agenda item.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to restate my support of both of the reappointment or continuing service of Irene as the chairperson as long. I just want to make. It's not a new point of order. It was just my commentary that Michael and Kathleen should have an opportunity to serve as chairperson. I guess that's the end of my
I'm
statement.
okay bowing out on. I'm fine with vice, and I would even offer that up to somebody else if they wanted it. But thank you.
I am interested in being vice chair this year. If
Cool.
to get some
Yay.
experience.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I'm willing to step down for Navardo. I guess we didn't do chair yet.
Oh, sorry.
Totally.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm jumping
That's
ahead.
One thing at a time.
Okay.
We have to open nominations for chair, discussion, no further. So before they vote, you have to say, are there any other nominations for chair?
All right, were there
Okay.
any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations for chair?
Not from Jeff
And
Redlitz.
hearing none, the nominations are closed.
All right, then hearing none, the nominations are closed for chair.
Now you take the vote. Or there was only one? Okay. Then announce.
So then Commissioner Abraham, you being the only one nominated for chair, that is your position still. So congratulations.
Thank you. Then,
All right, now open the nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Navardo to be vice chair.
Okay. Any
Anybody
other?
else have a further discussion? I mean, it seemed pretty clear, Michael, that you were, yeah. Good.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any more?
Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Valenzuela, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All right, hearing none, the floor is closed, and Commissioner Valenzuela, you are now vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the way that works is we don't actually vote unless there are 2 nominations for one position.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We only do this once a year, so I didn't remember that.
Okay, moving on to 8B. The action is to approve the fiscal 2021 to 22 commission meeting calendar.
Yes.
What
Which
this
is-
spells out are the meeting dates for the coming 12 months, starting in April. It includes March, actually. And it calls for the month of August to go dark, which is what the commission has been doing in previous years. And it also lists some activities that are slated. Again, I haven't listed any activities until June. And again, those are completely dependent on the situation with the COVID shutdown. But just for point of information, I'm listing them through what we know event-wise through February of 2022. And that wraps up the report.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay, is there any discussion on the calendar as we see before us?
It looks good to me. I remember a couple of years ago, we ran into something being scheduled on Yom Kippur. So I checked in. Yom Kippur is September 15th, and there isn't anything on the schedule for September 15th.
We actually have checked for that as well.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes,
Once burned, we all remember.
I think this coming year works out very well for us.
And if we need to have a meeting in August, we could just schedule one
You would schedule a special meeting.
as a special meeting. Okay. All right, all in favor of accepting?
Well,
Well,
is
you
there
need
a
to,
motion
sorry.
excuse me,
Yes.
is there a motion to approve the calendar?
Yes, I so move.
And do we have a second?
I could second that.
Okay, I will call your name, and if you're in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Abraham,
Aye.
Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Lees,
Aye.
Commissioner Redlitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Seelert,
Aye.
and Commissioner Valenzuela.
Aye.
Let the record show it passes 6-0 with Commissioner Sims being absent.
Okay, then moving on to 8C, the work plan.
Yep.
So Jim, do you want
Yes.
to
So
enlighten us?
what we're going to do now is we're going to review the current work plan quickly, just to give you any updates that we have. And then what we'd like to do is launch into your ideas for the next year's work plan, working from this document, seeing which things you want to carry forward, which things are new, et cetera, which things to remove. So, so here we go. Let's take a peek at this. And then what with the, we'll take your draft recommendations. I'll put that into a new document. And at the April meeting, you'll have another chance to make additions or changes. And then we will vote to approve the work plan. And then it can go to the city council following that for their review and hopeful approval, okay? So that's the process with our work plan. Let's see. The Arts Master Plan update, I'd like to schedule a Zoom meeting with the 3 commissioners who have worked on the draft. And I'm curious to see if you might be available this Wednesday to have a Zoom meeting to discuss some suggestions and edits.
Yes.
Which one are you at?
I'm at appoint up to 3 commissioners to serve on the Arts Master Plan update at the bottom of Arts Advocacy.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I just wasn't picking it up.
So it's Jeffrey, Navardo, and Irene. So is there a time that's preferable this Wednesday afternoon for you all? I mean, are you open?
I could do any time in the afternoon, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Navardo,
Yes.
what's your schedule?
Sometime before 5 would be ideal.
Excellent. Jeff, any issues?
No, none.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Can I make something about the one before that? Advocate for arts.
Oh, hold on.
You
Let
said-
me just wrap this up. Okay,
Oh.
I'll send you 3 an appointment for a Zoom meeting this Wednesday, and let's shoot for I think 3 o'clock. How's that? Okay.
A question.
Yeah, sure.
Excuse me, Jim, this is Jeff.
Yeah.
So are there edits that we can look at ahead of time, or is this a page turn style of commentary?
No, I'll send you something tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, give you a little chance to look at it.
Great.
Okay, Kathleen, go for it.
Advocate for arts use of non-traditional venues in the community. I think that's, I was doing that and staying in touch with it, but basically what I was doing was staying in touch with the L101s and, anyway, I think that it could be more helpful if we had a liaison, couple of people that liaisoned with and advocated for the Main Street associations and their activities. So everything that they're doing, instead of just trying to fill spaces, empty shop spaces. So, and I was also wondering if there are other groups in the community that we could be doing a liaison with, where we just advocate for them and maybe even report to the commission what's going on with each one, like we do with EFA. But it's up for discussion.
Yeah.
It just seemed to me that advocate for arts use of that just doesn't seem to.
Well, are you talking about next year's work plan, Kathleen?
2021, or
No, okay.
21-22, 21-22. Oh, are we just reviewing this one? We're not changing
We're just reviewing
anything?
the current year.
Oh, sorry, jumped
That's okay.
ahead.
So,
Got
okay, so then we'll talk about next year when we're done
Yes,
talking with this.
exactly. Well,
Okay.
Oh,
so
okay,
I
sorry.
just want to bring you up to date on the things that we've had activity on, okay, between now and the last meeting. I can sign off the Santa Fe undercrossing. Last week, we installed all of the artist wall plates acknowledging the artist, and we put on the wall signs that identify a QR code to go to the new website we've created, and all that good information. And so the sign, or the Santa Fe undercrossing, is now complete. The cleanup of the mosaics, the sanding of the rough edges, et cetera, that we needed to do, that's all been completed. And so now the project is complete. So we're glad about that. The Encinitas Boulevard undercrossing, the City Council approved your recommendation. And so Amy Bauer has received the contract. We're still waiting for Caltrans to give us their approval of the City Council recommendation, and then we can enter into contracts with the artist. The project, because the project got delayed into the beginning of 2021, we have given additional few months for the artist to complete the project. So they have until the end of March of 2022 if they should need that additional time. So we'll see what Amy Bauer and Brian, her husband, need time-wise, but we felt it was important to give them a little additional time. So that's the update on the Encinitas Boulevard undercrossing.
Jim, I have could I have one question about the Santa Fe? Are we planning some kind of a celebration or acknowledgement of all the artists that have participated at one point? I know we have COVID.
Yeah, we haven't really discussed that until after COVID. You know, we could certainly do that, and I know there's great interest in the community to have some kind of a gathering. I can report though that we're working with IT staff. We're going to shoot a video that we're going to use on social media to show someone actually going to the location, typing in or doing the QR code and doing the walking tour to kind of promote that element of the project. We're also going to do some social media project reports for Encinitas Boulevard with Amy Bauer and Brian. We think that'll be useful for the public to see the project kind of evolve from beginning to end. And so we're working with Amy and our IT staff to create some cool, short 2 to 3 minute videos that will give people updates on the project.
Okay.
The El Portal,
yeah.
The El Portal underpass, the designers have worked with us to see if we can broaden the actual space where art is going. And so we're working with them on that to see if that's a possibility. And let's move on to the next one. Let's see. And that's it basically for the updates from last month. So why don't we now take a look at this work plan and look at the ways that you want to alter it for next year, any additions you might want to make, et cetera, changes. So now is the time for Kathleen's idea about the non-traditional venues in the community idea.
Well, it just seemed to me when I reached out to the Main Street Association directors, one of them didn't even know we had an arts commission, and she's been on the job for a while. So it just seemed to me like it's an opportunity we should take, is to stay in touch with them, and to because I mean the whole thing is they're a good community resource for us, knowing what's going on in the community, and I think the perfect outlet for us to advocate for.
Well, do you?
That's what I'd like to say, is just liaison with and advocate for the Main Street associations and any other nonprofit organizations that would be appropriate with.
Yeah, and I think this non-traditional venues in the community, wasn't that geared toward
empty shops,
COVID, and the fact that so many places could be shuttling, and we wanted to see where we could have some pop-ups.
Right, yeah.
So how viable is that moving forward?
Well, it's just not something that's really much of an issue, certainly not worth having it on our work plan, because the three people that are running the Main Street associations are pretty much, and also the Chamber of Commerce. They're making efforts to do that anyway. So it's not like we need to advocate for it. It just seems that we should be staying in touch with them. That was the other one, the Chamber.
Well, so, okay, so what's your sense about item 3 under arts advocacy? Do you want to continue it for next year? Do you see it as something viable that will really happen, or?
Well, I would just say, instead of use of non-traditional venues in the community, advocate, liaison with and advocate for the Main Street associations and Chamber of Commerce, and other, you know, if other entities pop up, then we already do with EFA.
Kathleen, I'm just I'm curious, what do you see like the sort of what do you imagine as like the real world application of sort of like this bullet point that we're trying to draft language for?
Well, just the point that the Main Street associations, who represent large number of business, artists, and community and events, one of them didn't even know we had an arts commission. It just seems to me that
but again, you guys have, the commission has little connectivity into the community, so I'm not necessarily surprised by that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. I think we should have more connectivity with the community. If nobody else thinks so, then I would just take that off altogether.
Well, I think it is important that we as a commission are aware of what's happening in the arts in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's actually a good idea that we have maybe some people in the commission would kind of keep in contact and inform the commission of things that we might be interested in, art events or things that we could help them with or advocate for. Mm-hmm. It's not only the 101, but I guess there's others. Isn't there the Cardiff Street Main Street has an organization, and they do art projects.
Yes, there's 3 of them.
There are 3, and
there are 3, right?
And with Cardiff, it actually turned out to be a really good communication, because I called her, Clear Blue Sky. She was the one that didn't know we had an arts commission. And she started talking to me about the signage that was damaged in the storm. And they had applied for a community grant to repair the signage, but they applied for 2 things, and it wasn't clear exactly what they were going to do with it. So they didn't get the grant for repairing the signs. Well, then another storm came along, actually blew the signs down. But by then she was in touch with me, and I put her in touch with Jim, and we put her in touch with EFA, and people from EFA got back with her when they did a fund to raise it, and they tried to raise $7,000. They raised over $14,000 to repair the signs. And now their little Cardiff Main Street Association has $7,000 to do all kinds of other stuff with. So it's like it really definitely broadened her out of Cardiff and put her in touch with the regular art, with the rest of the arts community in Encinitas. And that's just what I see this work piece, this piece of an effort doing, is keeping us in touch with the people that are actually out in the main streets and the Chamber of Commerce working with our businesses and artists and events. They all do events.
So do you envision, people on this group would be then reporting back to the commission about what's happening, or how do you envision this?
Well, they all have newsletters that they send out, what's going on. I don't know if it would be something we'd have to report every month, or just when somebody, well, they all have events. They kind of take turns doing that. But just.
Well,
Yeah,
again, do you want to keep, as far as the actual outcome, advocate for arts use of non-traditional venues in the community? Do you want that text to stay the same?
No.
Yeah, we could strike that.
Well, that's really separate from what you're talking about, Kathleen. So
Yeah,
that actually could be a separate.
This was about pop-up galleries to help during COVID.
Right.
Right, and we didn't.
And there really wasn't an opportunity for that. And when I raised the idea, each one of them said, well, yeah, we would do that if we, if there was such a thing came up. And one city in the area has passed a law that they can't have a closed, empty storefront. They have to put some art or something interesting in the windows. They don't want it to look like the city's closed up. But I just don't see, it didn't seem like there was anything there. So, but what I did see is this, it seems like a good opportunity for us to liaison and advocate for the Main Street Associations and Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I just see that as something separate. I mean, maybe somebody else would be interested in pursuing the non-traditional venues.
Oh.
Well, we've had this on the work plan in previous years, and nothing ever came about as well.
Yeah, before it was low-income housing and mixed-use artist spaces, and then it turns out that you can't do that.
No, but actual non-traditional use, not arts use of non-traditional sites, it just never, it never came to fruition. So my suggestion would be that if this isn't viable, that you remove it.
Okay.
I mean, you can have gatherings right now.
But I mean, does the commission feel like it's their mission to do this?
I think it would be great if somebody on the commission would be interested in pursuing this.
But again, you have to decide as a commission, this is what you want to be working on next year.
This is Jeff. I would move that we remove it as our direct work program, because hopefully with the emerging arts plan, maybe emerging efforts with civic view, and the very tangible efforts of art installations on pedestals, a park, and an underpass, those are things that we can really work on as a team, as a commission, and it's a little more relatable to me as I explain my position on the commission and our work to my neighbors and the people in the community. So I haven't seen much activity on it, and I'd really like to focus our commission's efforts on things that are tangible, doable, and understandable by our community.
So would just propose to remove it altogether.
I would, yes.
Yeah, it's just that I don't think there's any reason for doing it. After doing it for a year, there wasn't much that came out of it. So.
Right. Okay. If you're all in agreement, why don't we just take that one off? So I'll remove it. Okay. In the area of arts advocacy, I did want to let you know that the city is undertaking, we've done a preliminary run with our department budget, and if approved by the city council, the city would be participating in the Arts and Economic Prosperity National Study that is done every 5 years by Americans for the Arts. the County of San Diego is going to be participating, and they've sent out a request to cities to participate in the study. And we have put it in our budget, so I'm hopeful that it moves forward and that we get the green light to do this. But I wanted to bring it up to you because what it would require is that starting January of 2022, we would be responsible to gather a whole series of audience surveys of what people are doing, involved with here in the city when they attend arts events. And also we need to do data collection of all of our arts nonprofits in the city to identify the fiscal impact that they make in Encinitas. So we would actually have legitimate data of how large the arts and culture sector is in the city. And that data would be a separate component of the County of San Diego data. And that would be very useful to the city to be able to identify what an impact we're having in arts and culture. Also, how large this sector is in the city, how much of the workforce it comprises, and the fiscal impacts of the arts. It's great data to have. It's especially important when you can look every 5 years and identify, have we grown, have we decreased from the previous study? It's great for writing grants and identifying just the impact of the arts. So I wanted to let you know that I would like to add this or suggest that you add this to your work plan, because the gathering of the data is going to be a pretty big effort. And we're going to hopefully involve the commission in that effort. So what do you think of that?
Well, go ahead.
So that's something we would all be involved in, but we'd probably need a few principal people to be responsible for it.
Well, city
work
art staff would
directly
work
with you.
Yeah, we do it in collaboration, but it would be a big effort. You were just talking about a greater advocacy role for the commission. Well, here it is.
Yeah, yeah. Something that actually does something.
Well, with it, I mean, would the staff be designing a questionnaire? Is that?
It's all created for us. Everything's done.
Oh, it's all.
You just implement it.
Wow.
This has been a 25-year project with Americans for the Arts. So there are a whole series of audience surveys. They roll out the initiative. We just have to give them, we just have to be the hands and feet that make it happen locally.
You know, Jim, this sounds like we should be able to get good input about how best to use Pacific View.
Well, again, this is data. This is identifying our arts community and what they're doing, what they're involved with, their financial numbers, how many people they impact, their audience size. And then it's also finding out from the people who attend these programs a whole series of questions and answers. And we have 1 year to gather the data. So we have all of 2022 to work on this. So it's not, and we deliver the information at the beginning of 2023. So that's the Arts and Economic Prosperity Report.
Jim, I would be interested in working with that on this, helping you get this information out. I think it's important.
Excellent. And we don't necessarily have to tie people in just yet. I just wanted to present to you that this is going to be a very big project that that the city will be undertaking, and it's going to be excellent data for us to have.
So what would the commission actually have to do to participate? I'm not clear on that, because the staff would be, because you already get the questionnaire.
No, but in other words, we would need the commission to help facilitate, in other words, going to concerts, handing out the surveys, getting them back, going to plays, going to activities that our arts groups are putting on. So the commission would be actively involved, along with any other volunteers we can get, in the data collection.
Fine with me. I'd love to do that. I'd love to know what the answers are.
Well, you will know at the end of 23, or at the end of 22.
Mhm.
All right, so do we have broad
So-
support for this, adding this to the
Yeah.
work plan?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, and everything, we should be up to actually having events by the time we start
Right.
gathering the data. We should be having regular events to gather data from.
Okay. So under the first category, arts advocacy, the first item, assist Encinitas Friends of the Arts. I don't see any changes to that. Item 2, appoint commissioners to serve on their board. I don't see any changes to that unless you guys do. We're removing item number 3, and we're adding the arts and economic prosperity study as a new initiative under arts advocacy. And then the next one is to regarding the arts master plan for the city council. I would think that you guys could take this one off because the arts master plan draft is already created, and at this point we're just finalizing the project.
Mhm.
So do you concur that we should remove the 4th item?
This is Jeff. I had a question that we never really used the date or deadline condition. I don't want to remove it unless we have some committed date or deadline. How do we express that in the work plan?
Well, in other words, once you guys have your completed master plan that's ready, it'll come back to the Arts Commission for a vote, and then it'll move on to the City Council.
so
Okay.
maybe we should change it from draft to final.
Finalize.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it should.
just
So
Yes.
leave it for now?
Yeah.
And just,
Yeah.
I think we should leave.
okay. So draft becomes
Yes, sir.
final?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Well, so in other words, we don't have to develop the Arts Master Plan. In other words, at this point, it would probably be present the Arts Master Plan to the City Council. Is that would
Yes.
be accurate?
Yeah.
That would be accurate.
All right. All right, and then we'll leave the same, the people involved. Okay, so we'll say present.
Because who knows exactly how long that's going to take.
Gotcha.
I mean, it
Okay.
shouldn't, but
Okay.
stranger
Very
things have
good.
happened.
Okay, moving on to,
Oh, Jim, I have a question. If we wanted to add work groups on Pacific View and also on the theater pad, would that be under arts advocacy or would that be under the arts venues?
well, I think you would
Venues.
probably put it under arts venues,
Okay, so,
which is down below.
okay, so we can discuss it at that point.
So perhaps put it down under arts venues.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving on to public art. So the projects that we have here, Santa Fe can come out. Encinitas Boulevard will still be in process, so we can leave that. The sculpture installation program is still being processed. El Portal and Olympus Park are all potentially viable for next year.
Mhm.
And those are the only public art. The only public art projects that I have moving forward after we wrap things up right now will be the completion of Encinitas Boulevard and the putting an RFP out for the sculptures for the 5 pedestals. By the way, the 5th pedestal is being poured this week, so that part of the project will be complete. And in this next 2-year budget, we have asked for funding to be able to fund the installation of the 5 sculptures that are on loan to us, pay an artist stipend, and pick up all those costs. So that will be moving forward. And then the El Portal underpass, or undercrossing, I think is what they're calling it. That is definitely a viable project. We will have to go back to the City Council and ask for funding for that, but we have put that in our capital improvement program request that's coming up. And then as to Olympus Park, there is no project necessarily specified public art wise, but it has been suggested that once the park opens, we take a look at it and see what we think might be needed there, if public art is needed. I know that there's a fair amount of mosaic going in the project already, but my suggestion is just leave it as a placeholder for that. So those are the only suggestions I would make, is just to remove the Santa Fe undercrossing and leave the rest of that item as is.
No, oh yeah, I would agree. I just wanted to comment that at the city council meeting, I think it was Councilman Muska suggested getting a public art for in front of the city hall on that big wall. So is that a possibility, or that's?
Well, right now the big wall is covered in vines. So, you know, if you guys deem that as a project worthy of public art, you know, that's something that we would have to initiate.
Is there another concrete wall that they were talking about? I couldn't tell in that conversation if there were two walls, one actually on City Hall, or because it was clear they also were talking about the one down on Vulcan.
I think it's the front concrete retaining wall that's covered with vines.
So not the City Hall building itself.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so assuming you're all good with that, that's the change I would make to that first item. And then let's scroll on down. The public art ordinance, I think, is still viable as a separate standalone ordinance. So my suggestion would be that you leave this item.
Yes. Yes.
Any other recommendations in regards to public art that you might want to add to your work plan?
Well, maybe investigate whether, you know, whether that would be possible to do something in front of City Hall.
They all seem to be enthusiastic about it.
Well, yeah. I personally think you guys have plenty of public art projects going on. They've been working out very well. But that's, you know, that's up to you. If en masse you all decide that you want to add that project, that's up to you.
Well, it could be something to think about for the future. Maybe not next year, but.
Well, we could wait and see if they bring it up again too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on to visual art. We have under visual art, the Art Night Encinitas project, which was actually created by the commission, by you all a couple of years ago. You know, with COVID, of course, it's been completely shut down, but we do have plans that once things lift, then we will resume Art Night. There was supposed to be a March Art Night right now. Of course, that's not happening. The next one on the schedule would be June. No, it actually might be a different date. Anyway, I think it is. There's another one in between, but we just don't know if it's going to happen or not. But it's hopeful that they would resume this summer. So what we've noticed is that we have one city staff person per each of our 3 locations. One at City Hall, one at the library, one at the community center. But what we're realizing is that we need a stronger presence of some volunteers to actually be greeting the public, connecting people with the artists, and just kind of being a welcome presence for the public. And it's kind of hard to do when, you know, the lone staff member is running around filling water jugs and any number of other issues and getting performers up on stage, etc. So I would like, pardon, yes, and running shuttles, and running our shuttle buses. By the way, the county of San Diego, the county library system, has given us a confirmation that they will continue to fund the shuttle for Art Night,
Great.
which is
That's
very,
terrific.
very generous of them. So I would like to tweak this item to say not just to assist staff to plan and implement. We really need a presence of the commission at every art night. I would love to have all of you there to be that liaison, to say, hey, I'm on the Arts Commission and welcome to Art Night, and help connect people, because it's basically our largest event that we do, next to Day of the Dead.
Should we change it to all?
Well, and I would just add and volunteer at, probably.
Plan, implement, and volunteer at.
That sounds good.
Then we should add the whole board to that item.
Well,
So,
I mean,
so it just doesn't just fall on the 3 people.
but the other stuff's way more specific, though, and then the volunteering part's supposed to fall on everybody.
I agree.
So maybe it needs another item, or
maybe
different.
Yeah, because we really rely on Michael and a few others to just kind of help us plan the upcoming ones, and it's been very useful and effective. But yeah, as far as Art Night goes, we need the entire commission to be at Art Nights. It's really important. I will say that it's been difficult for me to go out and ask other volunteers, because their first response to me is, well, isn't the Arts Commission doing this?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, we're all doing this, hopefully.
Yeah.
Sure. So it could be, a new, just its own item that all to volunteer at Arts Nights. So maybe we could do some kind of scheduling so that, ahead of time, if certain people can't make it, we know ahead of time, or just try to get at least like 4 out of 6 at each one.
Yeah. That's easy to do. Bridget has a whole structure of keeping all of this going, but I like the idea of just adding it as a separate line item, because I think it's really important. You guys created this event, and we'd really like you to feel ownership of it. Okay, if you're amenable, I'll add that as a separate item.
Okay.
And then number 2 under visual art is to appoint up to 3 commissioners to serve on the visual art selection panel. Of course, what's great about the advent of Zoom is that it's so much easier for people's schedules to just show up. For us to send a link, and they can do this at their leisure at their home. So it's working great. So I would just update the year on this one. And okay, so then under the next one, I have contacted the California Arts Council. They have given no clear indication if they're going to sanction any additional cultural districts. They, Oceanside, San Diego already has 3 of, like, I think they only have 10 or 12 in the entire state. And San Diego has 3, one in Escondido, one in Oceanside, and Balboa Park downtown are cultural districts. So the rollout that this would be some big program doesn't seem to be happening. And in fact, they may only keep the ones they have. And so I suggest that we modify this, or just decide that we want to create our own cultural district and just do it, in-house, so to speak. What are your thoughts?
Well, Jim, isn't that kind of a first step that maybe we didn't have in place last time we applied, which could have been, part of the reason we didn't get the arts district appointment?
Yeah, I don't know. That was so long ago. I mean, we submitted an application along with everyone else, but we weren't selected. But that's why I'm saying I don't know that we should necessarily assume that the California Arts Council is going to green light us. But there's no movement on this project at all.
It can only strengthen the resume, though.
Yeah.
For the future,
Do you want to leave it as is and continue to hold on to this idea?
No, I mean, to designate our own district.
Okay, so remove the CAC entirely from this.
yeah, if it doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll just wipe out the second line. So assist staff to designate downtown Encinitas as a cultural district. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And,
so we'll make that edit. Kath, Irene?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I would like to get a group devoted to following up on what's going on in the Pacific View, and also a group subcommittee that would be looking at the what's happening with the theater pad, because I think that's a question that's all often comes up. Well, what's happening with these places? And we often feel like we don't really know, and we don't know if we can contribute anything to the future development of these.
All right. What language would you want to have for the Pacific View item?
I agree.
Maybe appoint 3 commissioners to follow up on activity for development of the Pacific View site. And then
Does
the
it make
same-
sense? I'm sorry, this is Jeff. Irene, does it make sense to hear the item that is on our agenda tonight first, and maybe that'll lend a little clarity to the discussion?
Mhm.
Well,
'Cause there is-
yeah,
Then we got to
I
wait.
guess I think we could add it. I mean, we're discussing the work plan now, and
Yeah.
I don't see how that discussion actually would change whether we're going to do this or not, unless people aren't interested in following up on it.
No, absolutely.
It's a way of kind of solidifying our interest in it, and because I know in the past we've had a lot of questions, and it's never really been on the work plan. So this would give us some kind of a tether.
Also, the city is considering taking a very financial big step, and the Parks and Recreation is involved now. And so it's a very different situation than it's been over the last 10 years, when there was just a nonprofit group keeping an eye on Pacific View.
Well, perhaps Jeff is right. Maybe, why don't I put this text down, and then you guys can, between tonight or even as late as next month, you can get this a little more specific and tweak it.
Yeah, let's keep it pretty general for now. Definitely.
Okay, so I have appoint 3 commissioners to
Oh,
follow up on activity at the Pacific View site.
And how about the theater?
Okay, then that should be a separate item.
Yes,
Yes.
I believe it should be separate. This is Jeff. I agree it should be separate.
Okay, what text do you want regarding the, so we're now talking about the theater pad at the Encinitas Ranch Town Center, and the city is actively working with North Coast Repertory for them to build a theater on that land. Do you want basically the same text?
Yeah, I think it could be.
Appoint 3 commissioners to follow up on activity at the theater pad site.
Development of the theater pad.
Okay. Okay. Those were the only things that I noted. I took a look at the arts budget for next year, and was trying to identify what are projects that we're going to be working on as far as the arts staff goes, cultural arts division. And so the only real new one was going to be this arts and economic prosperity study, which you guys, I envision having a significant role in. And so that's wonderful. Guys, do you have any other ideas you want to add to your work plan? And we can also make changes next month as well.
Well, as Pacific View rolls out and the theater rolls out, that's all likely to change as we get through the year anyway.
True.
Let's hope.
Okay.
We have more to
Okay.
work with.
All right. Well, that wraps up that agenda report.
Mhm. Then we move to 8D. And
So the community grant program is revving up for its next cycle, which would start July 1st, taking you through June 30th of the following year. And we need one commissioner to serve on the evaluation panel. They will have one meeting, and it will be on Monday, May 10th from 9 a.m. to noon. It's a Zoom meeting, and all of the appointed commissioner would be sent a link to all of the applications that we receive from nonprofits to read over, look at, and then we would have that one meeting on May 10th for them to submit their suggestions, recommendations, score sheets, etc., for the evaluation process. Kathleen, I think that you have done this in the previous year.
Yes, and I very much enjoy doing it, and I'm perfectly willing to do it again, unless somebody else wants the experience.
I would be interested in doing it, but I mean, if you really want to, I mean, I have no issue. But I'm interested in doing it.
Well, then we should decide the group should decide who to do it.
So is there anyone else interested in serving on the panel? All right, hearing no other interest, then I will call your name, and if you could state if you vote for Commissioner Lees or Commissioner Valenzuela to serve on the evaluation panel for the community grant program. So Commissioner Abraham?
I vote for Kathleen to continue.
And Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt?
I'll vote for, I'm sorry, I'm abstaining. Sorry, couldn't make up my mind quick enough.
Okay. Commissioner Lees?
I vote for myself.
And Commissioner Redlitz?
I'd like Kathleen to continue just because of her longstanding relationship with the group.
All right. Commissioner Seelert?
I vote for Kathleen for the same reason.
I'm sorry, the sound cut out for a moment.
Oh, I vote for Kathleen as well for the same reason, her experience.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Valenzuela?
I guess I'll vote for myself.
Okay. All right, let the record show that Commissioner Lees received 4 votes, Commissioner Valenzuela 1. We have 1 abstaining and 1 absent. So Commissioner Lees, you get to serve again on the panel.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
Irene, did we lose you?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'm here. So, okay, so we are moving on to item 8E, which is the Pacific View site planning and programming. And Michael, you have the report, the agenda report.
I do have the agenda report. It's somewhat not extremely lengthy. Well, it is with the survey attached, but
Right. 57 pages.
Yes, we do have the report. I'm wondering if my best route would be to maybe summarize or to read from it. Has everyone had a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've looked at it. Has anyone not had a chance to look at it?
I mean, the introduction and the recommendations are about 4 pages. I could read all that. I don't want to skip anything. I haven't prepared a summary. What do you think, Jim?
Oh, yeah, if they've read it, then you can just summarize the key points.
Well, some people haven't.
recommendation.
Some people haven't.
Oh. Is
Well-
this the beginning of your recommendations, number 1?
You know what? I think I should just go from the recommendations because we did get quite a bit of background from the director, Jennifer Campbell of Parks and Rec last meeting. So I think I'm trying to look if there's anything in there that we might want to reiterate.
One thing I'd like to bring up is that the first paragraph on the second page
Sure.
is that the Encinitas primary use by a year-round theater company could curtail full public access to a publicly funded facility. This is not a publicly funded facility. The city owns the property, but the city is not participating in paying for this theater. Am I correct, Jim? Isn't that the agreement that they're building the theater?
Yes, they're responsible. If we're talking about the theater pad at Encinitas Ranch Town Center,
Yes.
yes, it's public land, and the nonprofit theater is responsible to fund the building of a theater.
So the facility is not publicly funded. The city is, I understand, going to charge $1 from what I remember Jennifer saying. The city will charge $1 a year for a lease on the land. But we have been, I don't even know how many theater companies have been through this process with us. And from what I understand, the hang up is always that the nonprofit community groups want too much access to the space for them to be able to spend $20 million and then give away prime time to a nonprofit organization from the community. So.
Okay.
The fact that it's not publicly funded makes a huge difference. If the city was building that, it would be completely different. Or even paying for half of it.
I think it would depend on the definition of that you go with public funded. I mean, it's a site that is owned by the city, so in some regard it is. But if they're not funding the use of it, then you have a point.
And for the last 20 some years, it sat empty. So it hasn't been any benefit to us at all. Empty.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry we didn't get the Shakespeare
company. We can discuss this at the end, but I will. I think it would be useful for me to read through this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to do that. And so,
you're going to read through the whole thing?
I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but the introduction's literally about two and a half pages, and the recommendations about 2 pages. So it should not take long. Sorry, I don't. If not everybody's read the whole thing, or at least those few parts, I think we should introduce it like that.
I thought everyone had read it.
No, I definitely heard somebody say that they did not.
Could we identify who said they didn't?
Or maybe not. I thought I heard somebody say not.
So everyone has read.
Okay, great.
Oh, good.
Good, so I won't have to read it.
I'm not hearing anybody saying that they didn't read it. So then you can summarize it maybe.
Okay. So essentially, myself, Jeff and Navardo all met and discussed Pacific View, and we've discussed at great length what the process has been with that site since it's been purchased. And we've come to the conclusion that we're extremely excited and happy that the city is going to be putting this as a very high priority item. We think that's amazing, and in the recommendations, that is that's something that we want to do, is draft a letter to City Council commending their identification of Pacific View as a high priority project, and ask that the Commission of the Arts be granted a more proactive role in Pacific View site's future. So that's the other part of it, is that we would like to have a more active and proactive role, as it's not been part of our work plan. We've received maybe, a few random updates, but this is sort of going to be the lifeblood of the arts community in the future in Encinitas. And I think we need a very center role for the Arts Commission. So most of our recommendations to staff do sort of give action items as to how we can be more active in this Pacific View project. So number one would be a Pacific View Master Plan Working Group to establish Pacific View plan. We'd advise council on strategies and programming. It would have, let's see, and this is another thing, it's going to have members of multiple commissions, because we feel like this project, is a very broad community-based project that will encompass all these other interests and where we have expertise. So definitely Parks and Rec, planning, senior citizen, and traffic and public safety we would want involved. So one member of each. It would be chaired by the Commission of the Arts member. And so what we'd like is to require any city action related to Pacific View be placed on the agenda of each city commission and be accompanied by a city report for acknowledgement by the commissions at public hearings. So again, that's really gonna keep us all aloft of what's going on with Pacific View more. And let's see. So another recommendation that we have that we came up with, essentially because, let's say, there is opposition to Pacific View, but we think that preparing an EIR proactively could address concerns ahead of time, and that the city can and should certify an ER along with approving a master plan that will allow for specific long-range development of the site. So along with this, the Arts Master Plan update does address Pacific View. So we want to get that going in front of City Council as soon as possible. And so city communication to the Commission for the Arts regarding Pacific View. We want that the most current study of Pacific View reuse plan include all construction, engineering, and city or nonprofit administrative costs for ongoing site and program and maintenance supervision. That will just give us more info. And then for our recommendation number 5, Commission for the Arts expertise, sort of listing, if you will, our expertise that could be helpful in this project. So prepare a recommendation from our commission, which highlights areas of expertise and specifically in design elements requiring in the plan and the Center for the Arts redevelopment project, including arts venues, design, activation of a public space, design viability of workshops, studio gallery alignment, and similar performance art spaces for practice and performance. And we want to prepare a comparative assessment of the Pacific View development alternatives. This is something we discussed at great length because we think that we're kind of at a critical juncture, and Pacific View seems to lack a long-range goal from really anywhere in the city, from the community to the Arts Commission to our city leaders to the nonprofit leading the place. We don't see a long-term plan. We think these are very old buildings. It seems like the city wants to sort of get behind, putting the minimum, or not necessarily the minimum, but getting behind putting the amount of money that will get this thing up and running. But we want to make sure that in the process of that, we're not curtailing how great the center could be, and looking at all different alternatives. So long-range goals and objectives in addition to short-term efforts for activation on the campus. That's definitely something that we want to assess more, because there's all kinds of different things that could happen there, to make it an amazing 70-year building. as far as if it could be a development site or if we could get regional partnerships, which is the next point, contacting the County of San Diego District 3 Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remmer to review the potential of Pacific View as a multi-community arts center serving the entire district, which could open up, potential funds for making it a really world-class arts center. And so those are our main recommendations. If you haven't really read the introduction carefully, I suggest you do go back and check it out. But we want for the commission to be more active in its role here, and we really want the city to be thinking long term on this wherever possible. And if I've forgotten anything, I'd really like for Jeff or Navarro to jump in here. Did I miss anything, guys?
No, I think this is Jeff. There's a lot of good information. I think you really need to read it and study it and then walk the site. That's my advice to really anybody that's been interested or curious or think they have a strong affinity for the site. Walk the site and really understand the nature of the neighborhood, because, one of the focus I've had for a long time is who are the neighbors? What kind of services do they demand? How does this site fit in the context of the community? And really, I think it's a perfect location for a more intensive use. So I really urge people to walk the site, understand the width of the street, understand who the neighbors are, understand the topography of the site that allows for, a high level of redevelopment, underground parking, turning movements. My fear is an arts plan and an arts center gets kind of sidelined by all this discussion about impact on the community and traffic and all of that, which frankly, I don't see as an obstacle to developing the site. So I just urge you to become real familiar with the actual setting.
Okay.
Navarro, did you have anything to add?
No, I just think that this is a perfect opportunity for us to be proactively advocating for an art center. That that the land is there and it's been there for a while, and I think it's I think this is an opportunity for us to say this is the vision that we collectively have for the site. We want to create an art center, and there's a need in the community for this. And we cited the survey that was done in the fall, and the community. 400 people responded to this, and it kind of gauges. Yeah, but that still gives us a sense that the community would potentially back up the idea of establishing a performing arts center, or doing something more long term that is not just something that rehabilitate the site, which is kind of more like a short-term view, let's just rehabilitate it and let's see what happens, but there's no real plan as to what is really going to happen with that site long term. And I think that's what this document gives us the opportunity to say we would like to advocate for a greater vision for this community.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on top of that, I think there's potential for having a site-specific plan to Pacific View, and that could really, outline the long-term goal here. So I did, since Kathleen already brought this up, I did want to address that. We did make mention of the theater pad site, and perhaps it's not really that relevant to what we're talking about with Pacific View, but it is sort of tied in with as far as city sites that are designated for the arts that have been sitting vacant more or less for years now. So that's why we did make mention of it and add some opinion to that.
Well, I think, thank you, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen, may I just mention one more thing? I'm sorry, before you speak, I just want to make mention of one thing. If you do end up looking through the survey at the end, just, I wanted to note that it is a very small subsample.
Yeah,
and
that's too bad.
If you read the comments, it seems like it is from a lot of people who really care one way or another, which is great. But it's not necessarily a representative sample of our entire community, being that it was maybe like 600 or so people, and we live in a city of 60,000 or more.
I completely agree. 421 people, whatever it was, is not very many people.
Yeah, but we're happy to have any data, so that's great.
Yeah, that's why I think it's wonderful what Jim is adding to our work plan, that we're going to be actually out talking to people while they're involved in cultural arts programs and actually see what do they want. Because because I did read the thing. I probably read the whole thing. And some people have been saying the same thing for the entire 10 or 12 years. And I have to tell you, we were talking about buying this property for years before it actually came to this. There was proposal one from one school board, and then another proposal from another school board. And then somebody wanted to do this and that. I mean, this went on, what, 10, 12 years? I don't even remember how long. It went forever. It was like a whale breaching, come up and down, up and down. And then finally, all the courts were settled and everything. The school district made an offer, $10 million, and the city council said sold. So, none of this is not a new issue in the city. And I'm surprised. The only reason 420 people answered this survey is because only 420 people knew about it. There are a lot more opinions out in the community. And I think that this is really terrific, this process we're going to go through, where we're actually talking to people and finding out what they want and what they enjoy doing and what they think works that we're doing. And this is a terrific report, you guys. Really, a lot of work went into this. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you for doing all this work. And you have a lot of great ideas in here, and a lot of them that should be considered. I'm wondering though about what the city council is thinking, and it seems that they have put the Pacific View as a very high priority of getting it going. And maybe the first step that we should think about is writing a letter to them. I actually read through your whole report, and I thought there are a lot of great ideas. And I thought maybe the first step would be just writing a short letter to the city council expressing our desire to get more involved in the process, maybe not going into specifics, but really emphasizing that when the Pacific View was purchased, that the purpose was to make it an arts venue. And I think if we can support that in the city council, even with their initial rehabilitation efforts and to get some activities going, if we make sure that the use is 100% for the arts, that will set the stage for getting future activity and maybe a future vision for what's going to happen. But I think we can't really wait. We waited so long to get this going that I think maybe we should let the community see that we can create this as a viable arts venue, just pretty much as it is now, and then get some enthusiasm going when they see that there's value in having an arts venue.
I 100% agree, Irene. I don't think any of us in discussing this really want sort of the long-term planning that we're talking about to slow down the process. So we're talking more simultaneous, and that's part of it. Is once it is open, you're right. I think there will be a lot more community support and involvement and attachment. And I think that is part of City Council's thinking there. And I just think, though, that when you have a site-specific, master plan for something like Pacific View, that's when you can get funds for it for the future. If you don't have the plan, you don't have the vision, it's not necessarily going to happen. Streetscape is finally going to be breaking ground this year. That was approved like 16 years ago or something, 15, 16 years ago, something like that. I don't want the long-term vision to get lost in the mix and the rush to do it. So yeah, I do appreciate you making mention of that. And we definitely do not want short near-term uses to be slowed down by adding unnecessary process. So yeah.
So I'm wondering if I have written a brief letter, which I think maybe summarizes some of what you are proposing. And I'm wondering maybe we should submit that we could look at that as an agenda item for next time we meet, see if we can submit that, or, I forgot that we're not meeting in person, in which case I could send this around. Should I read what I have written?
Sure, yeah.
Maybe? Okay. Letter to the City Commission from the Commission for the Arts. The Commission for the Arts wishes to express our deep appreciation to the City Council for the identification of Pacific View as a high priority project. We also appreciate the opportunity for the community to indicate their views about the use of the site through the recent community survey. The survey results, and then I have an asterisk to actually part I took out of your agenda about the statistics on the survey results. The survey results support the view of the Commission that the Pacific View site remain as a site solely for the arts, both as a venue for performances, the display of art, and the practice of the performing and visual arts. Supported arts disciplines could include, for example, dance, music, theater, art, and poetry with a small theater, rehearsal space, an art gallery, and studios for dance, painting, woodwork, for example, dance, painting, woodworking, ceramic and glass arts, etc. And then in parentheses, I wrote some of which may not be currently allowed under the entitlements for a public, semi-public space. Given the current movement to activate the Pacific View site, the Commission would like to request the following from the City Council. Number one, that Pacific View be dedicated solely for the arts. Number two, include the Commission or members of the Commission in the entitlements process to expand the use of the former school to include all arts disciplines. And number three, include the Commission in the visioning process for the activation of the site once repairs have been completed and for future development.
Yeah.
I think that might, I don't know, I think maybe a short letter without a lot of specifics might be a way of kind of getting us into the door for them to consider us as, a viable option to consider in determining the future.
Mm-hmm. Very tactfully put, thank you.
Irene, I just wanted to ask you, when you say solely for the arts, does that, so the previous nonprofit, the EACEA is, arts, culture, and ecology. I mean, do you think of that in a limiting sense, or just that it doesn't ever become something else?
Well, I think, of course, ecology is a very broad term, but I think we have a lot of public spaces for, non-art activities in our community, but we don't have a lot of space for art. And we used to have, like we had the 101 Arts Community, you know, with the little
101 Artist
studios.
Colony?
Right, exactly. Nothing has replaced that. And so I don't know, you can, you know, it's, of course, arts is kind of an ambiguous term. So, you know, it's a big umbrella.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Definitely a good tactful letter. I do, however, see value in sending actionable items over to city council. I mean, we are appointed by the city council to recommend them on things relating to the arts, and we kind of, you know, our ad hoc group kind of wanted to make a bold splash with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just like, yeah, I guess if you do that, I would like to see it. Some of the items I think maybe would fit in a different document, and it could be shortened up. And so, you know, there's a lot, you put a lot of thought into this, and you put a lot of content into this. And I think it would kind of overwhelm the message a little bit to have all of it at once, as a, you know, and I think for an opening salvo, you might want something shorter and more to the point. But yes, the Arts Commission wants to be involved in this, and this is, you know, how we want to be involved. I doubt that they're going to say, oh yeah, we agree, let's have an environmental impact report.
No.
For example, you know, after the
that's a budget
this
item.
recommendation. So, for example,
that's a very big budget item.
Anyway, that's my view.
Yeah. Jim, I have a question. Is there actually a master plan for Pacific View?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No, I think the AE, whatever they were called, the culture and environment, they had a long-term plan, but I don't think it was ever accepted by the city as a master plan for the property.
Yeah, it was probably just their own individual plan.
It was to the various steps that they would take. They would set forth various steps that they would take to how they were going to be bringing in enough money to actually pay for what they wanted to do, and how it would serve the community. So.
This is Jeff, Irene. I think the intent of this agenda item was for our subcommittee to present to all of the commission the subcommittee's thought on Pacific View and its relationship to the Arts Commission. So I can appreciate, Irene, how you want to write a letter, but I think this work was done for the benefit of the commission. So Michael and Navardo, am I right that we want the rest of the commission to read this report? And if you agree that this is a position of the entire commission, we would, I believe, take action on the language of this report. If not, you can tell us as a subcommittee, go back and work on it again. It's too broad, or it's not specific enough, or we want to trim certain efforts out of it. Is that not what we're after right now with this agenda item? And then based on that refined piece of work, then we can have a letter written that maybe draws out the highlights, or maybe we refine this to the point where it's a little simpler and a little more direct. But don't we want to work on this document first and then talk about a letter that gets sent to the council?
Oh, so
yeah, that's something we could do.
So I guess I'm asking, do you like this product, or should we work on it some more to reflect the position of the entire commission?
Well, I personally think that it's too long and it's too detailed. And it's really what we want to do is get people from the commission in the process of the decision making. And without, and you know, I think the last idea of trying to involve the San Diego new supervisor is a great idea.
I think that's a terrific idea too.
because,
So,
you know,
I'm
we
sorry.
always, yeah, I mean, funding is a big, looking in the future, the big issue is funding.
So is it the length of the
But anyway.
document or just the amount of the number of recommendations and you know, like,
I think, I'm not sure, like the environmental impact report, I'm not sure why that would be in there right now. And
I
Okay.
wonder,
and
I
and
wonder,
also this,
Well-
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And the specific, you know, your specific idea about the working group, I think that's really too specific.
Yeah.
You know, for which it would be really decisions of the staff and how the staff is organized. That's my opinion.
I mean, as far you know, just as far as this process has gone with Pacific View, we've received very few updates. We've had 0 input on the project as it stands. So if they don't want to enact these recommendations, they could come back and with something else. I think the recommendations about having a work group are important, even if it's not necessarily what happens.
yeah, I think all three of us, we're always interested in tangible efforts by our commission. How can we get involved more directly? You know, kind of reportable work, areas of work. You know, there's a lot of kind of vague discussion that's gone on. And I think this was an effort to get feet on the ground, go out to the site, look at it, go to meetings, start doing research, start getting work assignments for different commission members on all of the commissions that serve the city. So, you know, we like specificity. So that's what shows up in this report.
But I mean, just as far as the EIR goes, you know, that's sort of just a recommendation we're making that could head off a challenge, where in which case the city might need to do one in the future.
Yeah, I stand by the report. So, you know, I think other commissioners, if we could maybe do it in writing, you know, and I really appreciate if people take the time to even just margin note and PDF comments and send it back to Michael, and then Michael and the subcommittee can review it. I mean, this is, think of it first draft, if people agree with that.
okay.
Well, what
Do
about
notes need to be?
Yeah.
I believe that the work on this needs to stay within a commission meeting. So if you want to make some changes, I think you should probably make them now, or at a future meeting. But to work outside of the commission meeting structure, unless you're just working, unless the ad hoc is working outside of the structure, that's all that's allowed.
Oh
Yeah.
Can we not receive commentary from other commissioners through the chair or through Michael or through you? I mean, just facilitating their commentary. Can they not mark it up and send it back as a written document?
No, that's not the process that's allowed. I would suggest that you make your edits now in the meeting.
Okay.
Jim, I have a question. I'm wondering if some of the things that are proposed here sound to me more like our purpose is to support and advocate for. And it sounds to me, a lot of this is giving direction. And is that our role? Are we, as a commission?
We get to define our role as a commission. We're appointed by council, and you know, we get to recommend things to them. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, and this is one way we can sort of take on more of an active role, is just by mentioning it and trying to get the ball rolling.
What about your, you know, when I first read this, the agenda report, and I saw your recommendation, your actionable letter, which was draft a letter to the city council commending their identification of Pacific View as a high priority project and ask for the Commission for the Arts to be granted a more proactive role in the Pacific Views site's future. I thought that was it. That's what we were going to actually vote on, just that statement, and that's what I would think would be the most effective, would be maybe expand that without specifics, at least as a first, and ask for a position on some of the committees or however it's organized that are dealing with the renovation of Pacific View as the first step, rather than, and maybe keep the recommendations and, just wait and see what happens. And then, if nothing happens and we don't feel like we're having an input, then go to the more specific recommendations.
It would be a nice opening salvo to acknowledge them for what they're doing, because if you read the 420 responses, not all of the people who bothered to take that survey agree with the city even ever spending the $10 million to buy that property in the first place. For them to stand back now and after all this time step in and say they want to bring it up to the place where it can actually be used. I believe the term I heard at the city council meeting was get bodies in those buildings so that they're being used and not open to being vandalized anymore. Then I would not want to do anything to discourage them from taking that step, because I think that's moving forward and it's changing the game, because now Parks and Recreation are involved with Pacific View, and they didn't used to be involved with Pacific View, right, Jim?
Correct.
Am I correct?
And I agree that it would change the perception of that space to something that really is used for the arts and get that in people's minds.
It's very appropriate for us to step up now and say, we really acknowledge what you're doing and we're grateful for it. And it's our goal to support you in every way. And we want to have as much of an active role as we can. And then, so a few months later, if we come back with, these are steps we'd like to take, it's a little bit more of a progression.
Well, it would certainly give this commission more time to kind of go through it by line and then represent things that they might, want take issue with recommending. So I think that might be a decent way forward to at least draft a letter that's a little more simple as a first step. But I'd still like us to continue discussing these recommendations, and I am highly in favor of making all of them.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Would you like to hear Irene's letter again to see, with the idea of actually sending it, if it's what you want to send? Maybe we should edit that first. Do we all agree to send a letter first? I don't think I've heard from Erin. Erin.
Yes. I had my thing on mute because there was a lot of noise going on here, so I'm here. Yeah, I think we should definitely send a letter, whether it's Irene's or a new version that's drafted by the ad hoc committee. But yeah, it should be, straight and to the point, asking for us to have a role and not, overwhelming them with too much information. But I do like this this action plan pretty much. All the recommendations I think are good because I think they're necessary. So I think they should stay on this.
Okay, so maybe there is a consensus to prepare a letter so we could either, I'm not exactly sure how do we need to put this on the agenda for the next meeting, or can we finalize this
Again, this is
Before
your
the
action
next
item to draft a recommendation to council. You can either take advantage of this time and finish it up, or add it to the April meeting and revisit this.
Well,
Okay.
we can take a vote on drafting a letter and who's gonna write it right now. Is that correct, Jim?
Okay.
You can do whatever you'd like. I mean, if you can present this list that you've got here, or you can go with Irene's letter, or you can create an amalgam of both. But yeah, unless you want to draw it out and actually have this happen in April, then you can revisit this item. But if you want the letter to be, if you want to vote on what's in the letter, and you're ready to do so now, you can do that.
Irene, would you read the
Okay.
letter? Would you read your letter again, please?
Okay, I will. The Commission for the Arts wishes to express our deep appreciation to the City Council for the identification of Pacific View as a high priority project. We also appreciate the opportunity for the community to indicate their views about the use of the site through the recent community survey. The survey results support the view of the Commission that the Pacific View site remain as a site solely for the arts, both as a venue for performances, the display of art, and the practice of the performing and visual arts. Supported art disciplines should include, for example, dance, music, theater, art, and poetry, with a small theater, rehearsal space, an art gallery, and studios for dance, painting, woodworking, ceramic, and glass arts, etc.
Okay, do you see any change? Pardon me, Irene.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that first sentence, that first section?
I would approve that. I think
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
it sounds complete, and it's saying that we want to be involved, and what we see as important is that it remains as an art venue.
I don't think we should send that, just because it what it lacks is one of the main points of our report, that the Arts Commission would like a greater, more proactive role. I think we should draft something new.
That comes later. That
Could you read
wasn't the
that
whole
section?
letter. Yeah, I read the rest of it. Given the current movement to activate the Pacific View site, the Commission would like to request the following from the City Council. 1, that Pacific View be dedicated solely for the arts. 2, include the Commission or members of the Commission in the entitlements process to expand the use of the former school to include all arts disciplines. And 3, include the Commission in the visioning process for the activation of the site once repairs have been completed and for the future development of the site. So that would be the part. So item 3 would be our request to get the Commission involved.
I don't disagree with any of those points raised in that letter, but I think it's opening a whole bunch of other jars, sort of, that we could integrate potentially into recommendations. I think it gets to a very specific vision that is potentially even different than what the EACEA was doing, in having a maybe more expanded outside of the arts sort of center. And I don't disagree with you, Irene. I don't think it gets to the heart of what our report said. And I think it could be even more simplified without getting into the language of that it be only for the arts. And I would say that it would also need to maybe follow up and say that we plan to make recommendations.
I was going to suggest that you could add a paragraph where you're saying we're working on specific recommendations and we look forward to your attention, something like that.
Yeah.
Because we're not sending the report. We're not sending any recommendations. We're just letting them know that we appreciate what they're doing to bringing the buildings up to snuff so that they're actually available to people.
Right. And that it remains solely I'm sorry. I was just going to say that that it remains solely for the arts is kind of a recommendation.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
It is.
I'm not sure what other uses you're envisioning for the.
It has nothing to do with
actually.
what other uses I'm envisioning. It's just that we shouldn't send extra recommendations if we want to have, if we're wanting to just send a letter of support and only basically only recommend that we have a greater role. I just think that's another thing that could be put into the fold of this report. And
so,
future recommendations.
Okay, so I'm not sure. So you want to write an alternative letter or prepare it?
Yeah, I think we should, the subcommittee should go back and prepare an alternative letter to, taking into account what we've discussed here today, and then present it at the next meeting, perhaps. I don't know if that's what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Sure.
So we could move. So we could move for the ad hoc to draft a new letter that's short and to the point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it seems like we have consensus, I will move to say that the ad hoc will draft a letter to City Council commending their identification of Pacific View as a high priority project, and ask for the Commission for the Arts to be granted a more proactive role in the Pacific View site's future, to be looked at again at the next meeting before it's sent to council.
Okay, so we'll review that in April. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Good.
So is that a motion and a second?
That was a motion, by the way.
Okay, okay, I second.
So Commissioner Krella-Schmidt, for the record, just for clarification, you're moving that the ad hoc committee will draft a letter to City Council recommending that the Commission of the Arts have a more proactive role in the future of the Pacific View site, and you want to get that letter ready for the next commission meeting in April.
Yes, but additionally, the before asking a more primary role, also commending their identification of Pacific View as a high priority project.
Okay. And I'm sorry, could we have the first and the second again for that motion?
I think, Michael, you were the first.
So I'm the first. If I move, I'm the first. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Irene seconded.
And I seconded.
Okay. And for the record, then we've got Commissioner Abraham.
Aye.
Commissioner Krella-Schmidt.
Aye.
Commissioner Lees.
Aye.
Commissioner Redlitz.
Aye.
Commissioner Seelert.
Aye.
Commissioner Valenzuela.
Aye.
All right, let the record show it passes 6-0 with Commissioner Sims being absent.
Okay, let's see there. Okay, so that takes us down to informational items. And Randall is not here to speak about the Encinitas.
I'm here. I was
Okay,
at we had our final board meeting. Well, I'm sorry, it wasn't our final board meeting. It was supposed to be our retreat. We usually go out to dinner or something, and we didn't do that. But it was the planning meeting for the coming year. And I wrote it all down somewhere. I'm sorry. Well, the one thing that we did decide that's kind of along these lines is that this is a letter from Randall and I, who are the two representatives, and Erin, you were, yeah, she was there.
No, I wasn't there. I had
Oh, you weren't?
Yeah, I had a work conflict, so I wasn't able to make it.
Okay, well, I guess Randall and I are a committee. It's a little less formal at EFA than it is on the Arts Commission. But we drafted this letter to, it has to be sent to the Arts Commission. So this is our letter to you. It has come to our attention that the city of Encinitas is in the process of coming to an agreement with the North Coast Repertory Theater to build a 350-seat theater on the property owned by the city of Encinitas in the Encinitas Ranch Shopping Center. We understand there have been several previous proposals, but so far none have come to fruition. This is an important property for the community and a sadly missed opportunity for a much needed venue of the arts. The North Coast Repertory Theater is well established and has an excellent reputation. It will bring a much wanted entertainment venue to the eastern area of Encinitas. We are excited to hear the plans are being drafted and would like to know more about the details of the arrangement. Specifically, we would like to know about the opportunities for local nonprofits to coordinate with NCRT on programming and the possible availability of the facility. So that's our statement. We actually, we are ready to do an arts flea market at Pacific View in the autumn. We've committed, that's one of the things we're gonna do. And the banner project, four artists created banners. I don't know if you've seen them around town. They're basically thanking the first frontline workers, police and sheriffs and hospital people and even grocery store workers. And they've, the city blew them up and printed them on banners, and I think there are 5 of them hanging in different places. And one was taken to Scripps Memorial Hospital, and they gave it away there and had a little ceremony, and the people were just blown away and grateful for it, for the acknowledgement for what they were doing. So our banner program has been very successful, and they're looking at different ways that we can expand it out into the community, because it was very much appreciated by the people that it was meant for. So let me take one look here and see.
I just wanted to give you a little update because of COVID and all of these things. A timeline for that Pacific View event might need to adjust, so just be aware of that.
We know that. We know that we're being positive by saying we're going to do it this autumn. It's a positive kind of group.
It could also be under construction, so that's a possibility too. Yeah.
We don't need that much room, really. It's just a flea market. The idea is to get feet on the ground and bodies in the building. So that's the report.
Okay.
Okay. So Jim, you have a report from the Cultural Arts Division.
I actually don't. I think I've brought you all up to date in the previous reports, so I'm good to go.
And I guess there's no e-pulpity
no,
event this summer.
We're hopeful. We're hopeful.
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
It's on the books. We shall,
Pulpity.
you know, we're
It's on the
moving
calendar.
forward with the possibility, again, COVID permitting. So we shall see.
Okay. Okay, great. And I don't see any commission member initiated agenda items.
Actually, Michael's, I think would continue to next month.
Okay. And are there any other future agenda items?
I have a question.
Yes.
I went by to take a picture of the pedestal that Orpheus is on, and somebody had vandalized it. So I sent it to Jim, and I wanted to know if that I haven't been back to see if it was cleaned up. And Do we think this is going to happen, that people are going to think this is just another version of the Cardiff Kook?
You know, it was the first time we've had any damage whatsoever. We completely removed it.
Excuse me,
Back
Jim,
to good as new.
Jim, I need to call a point of order. The commission is set for 2 hours. If we're going to go past 7, we need a motion to approve that.
Well,
Okay.
I would make the motion to extend it long enough to get my question answered and close the meeting.
Extend a certain number of minutes.
10,
So we have to, 10 minutes?
10.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Erin.
Okay, and so I'll do a quick roll call to approve this. Commissioner
Oh,
Abraham,
goodness, sorry, guys.
Aye.
Commissioner Klauer-Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Lees,
Aye.
Commissioner Redlitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Seelert,
Aye.
and Commissioner Valenzuela.
Aye.
Okay, let the record show we're extending the commission meeting 10 minutes, 6-0, Commissioner Sims is absent.
In answer to your question,
Okay.
Kathleen, the graffiti was removed. Everything's fine. It's back to normal.
Okay, good.
Okay, and then for future agenda items, I think I would like to add the letter that I wrote. I think maybe I'll write another version, so we'll have 2 versions of letters to look at. So I would like to add that as an agenda item.
Okay, so to clarify,
Oh.
this is item 10. So Irene, you're wanting to initiate an agenda item, and you will prepare the agenda report.
Okay, Jim, I'm sorry, Jim, we need to have a consensus of 2 commissioners.
I approve, or
I'm-
a second.
I'm sorry, we had consensus. And I didn't see my screen. Can you repeat who gave the consensus?
Michael,
Michael Schmidt.
Thank you.
and I'll agree with it too if you need 3.
No, we just need 2. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so then we can have any other future agenda items from anybody? If not, we can move on to commissioner reports. The only report I can just start by saying I was very gratified at the council meeting that they unanimously approved the project at the Encinitas undercrossing, which I think is going to be a wonderful addition to our city.
And Irene did an elegant job of representing us.
Well, thank you. Anyone else?
It was really fun to see how engaged the entire council and mayor were when we were talking about art in the city and how excited they are to see what we're up to. So we have a council that very much supports our efforts, which is has not always been true. So it's a good thing, really a good thing.
Mhm. Any other reports or comments? If not, we can adjourn the meeting within our 2-hour time slot at 6:59. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Good job, guys.